The land of Alaska was covered in snow, silent and still. The winds were strong, and the sky filled with white clouds. It was December 21st, 1963. In the northern region of America, the cold was at its peak. A small single-engine plane stood on the runway. Inside were 2 passengers and 1 pilot. The pilot's name was Jerry Riley, and traveling with him was a 21-year-old girl named Helen Klaben, an adventurous young woman who loved to see the world. With her was her little son, Nicky, a 4-year-old innocent child. They were going from the far north of Alaska towards Seattle. The plane was old, but they hoped that within a few hours they would reach their destination. As the plane took off, the wind was strong, and a light snowfall drifted through the air. Helen held her child close in her lap. The plane left the ground and rose into the sky. For a few minutes, everything was normal, but as they moved deeper into the mountains, the weather began to worsen. Radio signals grew weaker, and the wind began to rock the plane. Jerry tried to contact the control tower, but all that came through the radio was static noise. After a short while, there was a violent jolt. A strange sound came from the engine. Then, silence. Helen looked toward the pilot. Tension covered his face. He shouted, "Hold on!" And then everything went dark. The plane crashed into the snow-covered mountains. The sound was so loud that birds from the nearby forest flew away. For a few seconds, everything was silent. Only the scream of the wind and the crack of broken metal echoed. Helen was unconscious. When she regained consciousness, everything was upside down. Her head was pounding with pain, and her right arm was broken. Her leg had a deep wound, where blood had frozen on the snow. Her face was scratched in many small cuts, and there was a sharp pain in her shoulder, as if a bone had been dislocated. She looked around. The pilot was not conscious. The front of the plane was shattered into pieces. She called out, "Nicky, Nicky, where are you?" After a moment, a faint cry reached her ears. She looked and saw her little son lying near the back seat, alive, but crying. Ignoring her own injuries, Helen took her child into her arms. At that moment, she was nothing but a mother who wanted to save her child no matter what. The pilot was dead. She understood then. No one was coming to save them. Ahead of her lay snow, wind, and the fear of death. Night fell. The temperature dropped to -30 degrees. The cold was so intense, and even breathing felt painful. Helen tore out the seat covers and cushions from the broken plane and folded them into small blankets to cover herself and her child. She burned some cloth near the engine to create a little warmth. Holding her child close, she kept him pressed against her chest so he would stay alive. Every moment she wondered, will anyone ever reach us? Will anyone see our signal? The next day came, but the sky was completely covered with thick clouds. All around was only whiteness, no sound, no sign of life. Helen looked inside the plane and found a little food, some biscuits and chocolate. She decided she would eat just a little every day so she could survive longer. She kept her child warm with her own body heat. When the child slept, she went outside and wrote "help" in the snow, hoping someone above would see it. Days passed. 5 days, 10 days, 20 days. Helen grew weaker, but she did not give up. Every morning she woke up and looked toward the sky. Maybe a rescue plane would pass. The snow kept falling, and she thought if no rescue came, she would try to walk toward some path herself. But her wounds were deep, and leaving her child alone was impossible. One night, as the wind grew even stronger, she saw their little fire go out. She used the aluminum pieces of the plane as a base and reflector for the fire and burned some remaining cloth and insulation material to make a small flame again. so the smoke would rise and maybe the rescue team would see it. The smoke rose, but the wind blew it away. Then she broke large chunks of snow and built a small shelter to block the wind. Her child's face had turned pale, but in his mother's arms, he was safe. Days kept passing. They melted snow to make water. When the food was gone, Helen chewed small bits of foam from the old seat covers, just to feel something in her mouth. She told her child stories, tried to make him laugh so he wouldn't feel afraid. Being a mother wasn't just about love anymore. Here, staying alive was a battle. Each day passed the same: snow, cold, and waiting. Sometimes she thought maybe the world had forgotten their names. But inside her heart, a voice whispered, "I can't give up. My son will live." Every day she endured her pain, pressed snow against her wounds, and prayed while looking at the sky. 49 days passed. One day, she heard the faint sound of a plane in the distance. Helen screamed loudly, waved pieces of cloth, but the plane flew away. Instead of crying, she rebuilt the fire again. That day the wind was calm, and the smoke rose straight into the air. A few hours later, another plane passed, and this time they saw the smoke. The rescue team marked the location, and within hours, a helicopter arrived. When the rescuers reached them, they saw Helen and her child, both alive. Their clothes were torn, but there was hope in their eyes. During the rescue, Helen smiled and said, "All I wanted was for my son to live." At the hospital, when she was asked how she survived, she said, "I knew that as long as I could breathe, my son could breathe too." Her courage became an example for the world. The media called her the miracle mother of Alaska. The 49 days they spent there changed the very definition of survival. She learned to live, not just for herself, but for her child. Her faith, her love, and her strength were so powerful that even death had to bow down. Even today, when people talk about survival stories, the name Helen Klaben is always remembered. A mother who showed that human spirit never gives up. There was snow, darkness, hunger, but there was also hope. And when hope stays alive, life never ends.